Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I hope you're doing really well and enjoying the beginning of the festive season. It is currently the 2nd of December as I'm filming this video and I am already fully in Christmas mode. I'm so excited for Christmas this year. I hope you're doing really well. It's been a little while since I've recorded a video and I could come at you with all of the excuses, but the reality is I have just been exhausted. I have been so tired. Third trimester of pregnancy is hard going, and by the time I get home from work and then by the time it gets to the weekend, all I want to do is go to sleep or put my feet up and watch TV. I haven't even had the energy to read. However, I do want to make sure that I'm still posting some Christmassy bookish content over the lead up to Christmas, and so I have this video and another video planned. So I will still be posting at least a couple of videos over the month of December, and the first one that I really wanted to do is one that I love to do at the beginning of every season, which is a winter book recommendations video. I'm going to be recommending books that I've read, books that I want to read and hopefully might read this December, and then books that you guys have recommended as well, because I put out on my Instagram a post last week or the week before and asked people for recommendations for wintry books, and I got quite a few recommendations, so I'm going to be sharing a few of those as well that I thought were particularly interesting. But before we begin, this video is sponsored, of course, by the wonderful Ana Luisa. Ana Luisa is a sustainable jewellery brand based in New York, and they are all about creating sustainable jewellery that doesn't cost the planet and is also affordable for you. For this video, they sent me 3 pieces of jewellery which are not for myself, but actually gifts for other people. What I love about Ana Luisa is that they have such a variety of jewellery on their website. They have gold jewellery, silver jewellery, things that make a bit more of a statement, things that are a bit more subtle and minimalist. And so they have such a good selection of jewellery if you're looking for a gift for someone. There will be definitely something you can find on their website. First item of jewellery I selected was the May necklace in a light blue. It's the same as the necklace I'm wearing right now in green, but in blue, and they also do it I think in pink. And I have a friend who I just think of this colour when I think of her, and so I absolutely had to get this for her. The second item are these crescent opal earrings. They're just stud earrings with opal crescent moon shapes, and I know someone who will absolutely love these earrings. And then the final item I picked was the Bayer necklace, which is a malachite green necklace, and it's just got this really tiny stone on the end of a gold chain. Ana Luisa's jewellery is tarnish resistant and is rigorously tested. It's also got a 2-year warranty on any item of jewellery that you buy, and so you can be confident that this is going to be a good quality and long-lasting piece. If you would like to buy yourself or a loved one a gift from Ana Luisa, definitely check out the link in my description for 35% off your order. Thank you to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video. Okay, so I have a stack of books to share with you first. These are all books, but I don't throw them around. These are all books that I have read and enjoyed and think are great for this time of year. We've got a mixture of some classics, some fantasy, and a kind of heartwarming, cheesy Hallmark movie type book. So the first book that I'm going to recommend is one that I read for the very first time last year, and that is The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffmann, and this is the original Nutcracker story. I have always loved the Nutcracker as a story. I'm fascinated by the ballet. I was enamoured by the Barbie Nutcracker movie when I was a little girl. This is quite a short book, and this particular copy is so beautiful because it has illustrations all inside of it, and it really is quite a quick book to read. I think I read it pretty much all in a 1-hour train journey. It's set around Christmas time, it follows a family and magical lands, and it's just wonderful. And because it's so quick, I think it's a great book if you're not a big reader but you want to get that kind of festive feeling. Because it's so short, I think you will definitely be able to enjoy this. And it's also a great gift. I feel like there's so many nice editions of this book. So if you're looking for a kind of wintry book to buy someone for Christmas, then I think this is also a good choice. Last December, I also reread a beloved classic, and that was The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, which is the second book in the Chronicles of Narnia series. And to me, this is the quintessential Christmas book because it's set in an eternal winter with a white witch and Santa Claus is in it, and it really captures the cold, snowy, Christmassy feel. Again, we follow the themes of family and family love and those kind of heartwarming messages that I think I just gravitate towards at this time of year. And of course has some really deep and important messages that I think you pick up more as an adult than as a child. And so it was really nice reading this again as an adult. It was one of my most loved children's books. I must have read it 5 or 6 times as a child, and it was just really nice to read it again as an adult. A book I absolutely love at this time of year is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I really enjoy the movies for The Hobbit. I know that that's quite controversial and a lot of people do not like the Hobbit movies, but to me, at Christmas time, there is just something really magical about watching those movies. But the book is even better. I've never really got on with the Lord of the Rings books before. I've always really struggled to get through those. But The Hobbit is a children's book and is written much more easily and is much more accessible to read. If you have tried reading The Lord of the Rings and just couldn't get on with it, I would absolutely recommend reading The Hobbit. In fact, I would recommend just starting with The Hobbit. It is a prequel, so you can read it. It's set before the events of The Lord of the Rings, but you can read it before or after. But it's its own story in its own right. It's an adventure story. It's magical. It's got so many amazing scenes and settings and magic, and I just think this book is the perfect classic fantasy story. And again, we follow those heartwarming themes of friendship, the bonds of friendship as you're going out on this dangerous journey, and how people look out for one another. And it's such a wonderful story, and I really want to reread this year as well. And then the final classic that I want to talk about is a murder mystery, and that is Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I don't know if this is set in the winter, but maybe it's just the cover, but my memory is that this is set in the cold and there's snow outside. I actually got this as a Christmas present in this beautiful edition many years ago, and so I read it around Christmas time as well, and so perhaps that's why for me this book feels like a very December-y, Christmassy book. This is probably Agatha Christie's most famous murder mystery, set of course on the Orient Express train. A murder happens, all of these suspects are stuck on the train stops in its tracks and they can't go anywhere, so they are all stuck in this really enclosed space as our detective Poirot has to discover who the murderer is. I just love murder mysteries where all the characters are locked in a closed, confined space. I think as well in winter when we're stuck inside and can't go out as much, then these kind of murder mysteries just have that extra edge of intrigue and suspense for us as readers, and so I thoroughly recommend this if you're looking for a murder mystery, and again a really nice gift for someone at Christmas time as well. So the next 2 books are fantasy, fairy tale-y type stories. One is one that I read in, I think I read it in the springtime, thinking it was quite a spring cottagecore type book, and it's really not. It is definitely a cold, wintry book. It's set in the winter, I think probably kind of January time. It's not Christmassy or festive at all, but it's cold and wintry, set in a remote place, in a cabin, with fairies and magic. And that book is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I absolutely loved the feel of this book. I feel like it really captures a cold day when you want to snuggle up under a blanket. In this book, we follow Emily Wilde, who is a professor of the study of fairies, and in this version of our world, fairies are considered to be real. They are widely considered and acknowledged as existing, and so it's actually become an academic study to explore fairy kind. And we follow Emily as she goes off in search of the final fairy that she needs to document in order to complete her encyclopedia of fairies. And of course, there are lots of twists and turns and enemies and magic and a rival academic to contend with. And this book is just so much fun. It's so good, and there's also a sequel coming out in January. I think winter, and particularly December, is a great time for fairy tales and fairy tale retellings. And I haven't read loads of fairy tale retellings, and particularly not in recent years, but one that's always stuck with me is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. And I know she has another one out called Spinning Silver, which is a bit more overtly wintry in its tone. We follow a young woman who is picked by, I think he's known as the dragon, but he is a wizard, and this wizard is known to pick these young girls from these villages and take them away, and nobody really knows what he does with these girls. And we follow one girl who is picked and taken by the wizard and kind of trapped in his tower. As I'm describing it right now, it sounds very much like Howl's Moving Castle, but I would say it's an adult Howl's Moving Castle. And then the final book that I've already read that I want to recommend is a cozy rom-com type novel, and that is one I've recommended in cozy book recommendations and also autumn book recommendations, because the first half of this book is set in autumn and then the second half is set around Christmas, so it kind of works for both times of year. And actually, I guess early December is probably a really good time to read this book as we kind of transition from autumn to winter. And that is The City Baker's Guide to Country Living by Louise Miller. We follow a pastry chef who ends up moving to this small town and becoming a chef for the local inn, and kind of leaving her city life behind and her high-flying career. Again, there's a theme of friendship and family, of there's just a heartwarming feel to this story. So those are all of the books that I have read that I wanted to recommend. Then I've got 2 books that I really want to get to this December that are on my TBR that I want to share with you. The first of these is one that I found in Waterstones the other day just as I was browsing for Christmas presents, and that was Upon a Frosted Star by M.A. Kuznia, I believe. And this really caught my eye because of the cover firstly, but then on the back it was described in a tagline as The Great Gatsby meets Swan Lake. 2 things that I absolutely love and would never have put together, but sound really great together. The description also sounded a little bit night circus-y, in that there are these big parties that take place and nobody knows when they're going to take place, but suddenly these invitations will just appear all around the city, and it will have the details of the party saying it's starting tonight, which reminds me of the night circus when the flyers just go up randomly and suddenly the circus is there. And I believe the book follows an artist who is attending these parties and just fascinated and enamored by them. And I think there's also an abandoned house and a creepy manor, and I'm guessing a Swan Lake type character as well. So it sounds really interesting to me. That's all I know about it, and I kind of don't want to research too much more. I think also it's only just come out this year, so it's a new release, and it just sounds really mysterious but wintry, and I love anything that's Great Gatsby inspired. And then the second book that I really want to read this Christmas time specifically is Little Women. This has been on my book list for so long, and it's one that every Christmas time I feel like I want to read. To me, I need to read it around Christmas. I know that for some people it's more of an autumn read, and for others it's more of a Christmassy read, but to me it feels like a Christmas read. And so every year I get to December and that's my time, that's my little window to read that book, and I always miss it every year. And so I really hope that I can actually get to it this year. The problem is I don't actually have a copy, and I always see it in charity shops and never buy it. And I don't know why I've not bought it yet. That would definitely help the problem. And of course, this is a classic beloved story about 4 sisters and their relationships with each other, and also romantic relationships, and just making their way in the world. And it's such a beloved story, and I think it'll be one that I really enjoy. And these last few books are books that have been recommended by people on Instagram. As I said, I put a post up a couple of weeks ago asking for wintry book recommendations, and I got a few suggestions and have done a little research, and these are the ones that I am particularly interested in. So the first book is The Enchanted Sonata by Heather Dixon Woolwork. And this is a Nutcracker retelling. So I'll just read the description of this book because I think this describes it better than I can summarise it as. Clara Stahlbaum, who is the main character, the girl in the original The Nutcracker, has her future perfectly planned to marry the handsome pianist Johann Kahler and settle down to a life full of music. But all of that changes on Christmas Eve when Clara receives a mysterious and magical nutcracker. Whisked away to his world, an enchanted empire of beautiful palaces, fickle fairies, enormous rats, and a prince, Clara must face a magician who uses music as spells, and the future she thought she wanted. It describes it as being a kind of retelling of the Nutcracker ballet, rather than the book, with a dash of the Pied Piper. The second book that was recommended quite a few times actually, and is a book that I've picked up in bookshops but just never actually bought, is The Snow Child by Owen Ivy. I believe this is a fantasy, magical realism kind of book, and it sounds like it's perhaps a little bit more serious in tone. It's set in Alaska in 1920, and we follow 2 characters called Jack and Mabel who don't have any children, and I believe their relationship is kind of drifting apart. In the first snowfall, they build a child out of the snow. The next morning, I believe the snow child is gone, but an actual child has appeared. And I think this will be one of those books that is just really emotional and deep and really thought-provoking. So those are all of the books that I have to recommend and mention in today's video. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and potentially found a book to pick up this December time, or perhaps a book to buy somebody else for Christmas as a gift. Don't forget to check out the link in the description box for 35% off your order, and a Luisa if you're also looking for a gift for yourself or for a loved one. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in this world, and I will see you hopefully very soon with another December-y, Christmassy, bookish themed video.